Caregivers, have you ever felt like nothing? I mean, nothing is going right? Well, cheer up and welcome to Dave the Caregiver's Caregiver radio program, where you'll learn how to avoid that dreaded thing called caregiver burnout and how to survive the grief process. You know, with roughly 100 million caregivers in the U.S. and Canada alone, that's about a third of the population. That means that everyone probably knows someone caring for a loved one. Join Dave and his guests now and every Wednesday at noon Pacific Time as they discuss avoiding caregiver burnout and surviving grief. So find a comfortable place to relax, kick up your feet, and prepare to feel better and to receive practical tips and tools that you can start using immediately to get you through today and every day so you can survive your tomorrows. But not just survive, but to live life fully and abundantly. Yes, you heard me right. That is a possible goal to achieve. And now, here's your host, Dave Nasani. Hey, welcome, LA. From Los Angeles, a big LA welcome to all my listeners out there in Radio Land. I'm Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver, coming to you live globally through the world-famous Blog Talk Radio Network. And we're going to help you get through this thing called caregiver burnout. That's our goal. And we have an exciting show planned for you today, or as Ed Sullivan say, a really big shoe with we don't have our lovely co-host Adrienne because she came down with a headache and took a nap, and we're going to miss her. But those darn headaches, those migraines, they ought to come up with a cure for those things. Anyway, today we'll be interviewing brand new caregiver Steve Munoz. Always have trouble pronouncing that. And we'll be talking about brand caregivers today, jumping in head first and clueless. So we'll see if Steve considers himself clueless or not. So stay tuned. You do not want to miss this show. And I am your host, Dave Nasani, as I said. And this show is the caregivers of every single kind. And the one thing we know about caregivers, see, I know you get tired of me saying this, but I'm going to say it again for all the new people, is that, they're caring and they're selfless, they're sacrificial, they're empathetic, sympathetic, diabetic. No, I threw that one in. They have this tiny little problem. They're very prone to burnout because they tend to put everyone else's needs above their own. And I always say, learn a lesson from the airlines, for goodness sake, because they tell us in the event of an emergency, put your own oxygen mask on first before you attempt to help your loved one with their mask. And why do they tell us that? Well, it sounds like the most selfish thing a parent can do, but they know from experience that if you don't put your needs above everyone else's, including your precious little loved one, you are going to burn out, buddy, and you won't be any good with anything, with anybody. So that's the story. And we also talk about grief and loss here as well as burnout and this devastating effects it can have on us. Anytime anyone suffers a loss, you lose your girlfriend, you just heard you have cancer, your wife served you divorce papers, you're going into bankruptcy, you name it, you're going to go into the grief process. And there is no shortcuts around the grief process. You got to go through it. Can't go around it, over it, under it. And hopefully we can help you through your grief and your loss if you feel like you're kind of stuck. And I do want to take this time and thank my last week's guest, caregiver Melissa Williams, volunteer at the Alzheimer's Caregiver Support Group. Just a reminder, you can listen to that interview, which was a great one, and all of our interviews, including this one right here, on our website, caregiverscaregiver.com. And we're so excited that my new book is just getting closer and closer to release in September. September will be here before you know it. And I'll let you all know when you can begin the pre-purchase process so that you can throw me onto the New York Times bestseller list and more people can be blessed by this book. I know I'm optimistic, but you need to be if you're a caregiver. Anyway, it's called It's My Life Too. Reclaim your caregiver sanity by learning when to say yes and when to say no. All right, enough of that. A big welcome to my guest, Steve Munoz. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Hello. Thank you, Dave.
Steve is shy. He didn't want his face on the picture, so I told him to call in. No, that's not true. He didn't have access to a laptop with a camera. So I'll describe how he looks. He's kind of a big guy, black hair, ponytail, beard, And he's married to a gorgeous woman, so there must be something good about him because, what gorgeous woman would marry a guy like this? I don't know. He's got gifts, I'm telling you. And he's a caregiver to his father, and I'll let him tell that story. Steve, I like to ask people, who is Steve Munoz and why was he put on this earth? Go ahead, take a couple of minutes and play around with that one.
Well, I'm married. I've been married for 17 years. I have 4 kids, and I believe
That
I'm
makes you a
here.
caregiver by itself.
It's a job all on its own. Yeah, both of them, marriage
It's your
and the
prep.
kids,
Yeah.
definitely. But I truly feel like I've been here. Those are the biggest things in my life, or my immediate family. My wife, my marriage, my kids. I about 5 years ago, I left. I had a corporate job, and I left to be a stay-at-home dad. And my wife went back to
Mr.
work, and
Mom, huh?
yeah, hardest job ever, hardest by far.
Yeah.
There's nothing that I've ever done, and I still do that now. So now not only am I a stay-at-home dad, but I'm a caregiver as well. So, but I give a lot of myself, as you had said. I love to serve, and I love to give my kids and my wife and now my dad everything that I can. I'm kind of a people pleaser with those
That's
closest around me.
that's not a good trait when you're a caregiver, though. You need to break that habit.
No, exactly, and
In moderation, of course.
yeah, you had mentioned earlier, about if I felt that, if I was thrown out there um, without knowing much, and that's exactly how it is, how it's been for me. So it's kind of everything's new. The condition, my dad, he's got dementia. I just found out in March. Just I found out he was living about 3.5 hour drive from me. I hadn't seen him in about 4 years.
Is
This
he a
is my
father or stepfather or what?
this is my biological father,
Hmm.
who ultimately left my mom and my family when I was about 9 months of age. So
Wow.
I have no recollection of ever living with him in my life, but as adults in our relationship with God, and we became close, mostly by phone. He would come down and visit me and my kids, and but he lived up on the mountain, so it was kind of, I hadn't seen him, like I said, in about 4 years, and we used to call and we used to talk for hours. I mean, he was the guy,
Really?
my go-to guy on my long drives, traffic, LA traffic, all that good stuff. And we had a good relationship, but it kind of, the phone calls got fewer and fewer. He wasn't returning my calls or texts, and he I knew something was up, and I've known for a while that he might be going down that Alzheimer's road,
Hmm.
just because he was forgetful. My wife and I have always felt that he should come stay with us, but we didn't have the place, the size, anything, and it was kind of just something that we just felt we can help. But when I found out in March, he actually told me, and I could remember thinking like, wow, he knows, like, that's great. Um, but he doesn't really know what exactly it is. He doesn't know what's happening to him, on a daily basis. He doesn't know why he can't. He doesn't know where his room is, or he doesn't know where the restroom is, or he doesn't, basic simple things,
Yeah.
and then we just recently moved into a place because we lived upstairs, and the stairs were getting really hard for him, and we were just
In an
left with this
apartment?
place. Yeah, we were in an apartment, and
How many bedrooms?
because it it was only 2 bedrooms. It was a big two
Wow.
bedrooms, and it was weird. So,
The
but my
optimistic
kids,
caregiver. It was a big 2 bedrooms.
my kids had the. This is how it was. My kids had my older boys had a room, and my two younger kids had a room, and my wife and I had the living room. So we didn't have like a living room per se. We weren't really home a lot either. But once he came aboard, well, which is weird. The whole story of him coming on board was I found out he had dementia. I went out to see him the next week or two. Made the 3.5 hour drive to Big Bear, and I just saw him. He couldn't care for himself anymore. He was renting a room from somebody, and basically the person he was renting a room for was like, you need to do something about this guy. Like, he didn't want to care for him. He didn't,
wasn't family or anything.
No, he's just a friend of a friend, pretty much. And they had a relationship as far as friendship. And this guy was good in the sense that he was taking him to the doctors, and he was like helping him get his prescriptions, and helping him pay his bills. But he wasn't helping him take a shower, or he wasn't helping him do things like the normal day-to-day type stuff.
The important stuff.
When I had went up there finally to visit him, he hadn't showered in 2 weeks. He had this really nasty infection in his toe.
That's kind of how they take care of you in a bad nursing home. Unfortunately, you got to stay away from those places.
He was getting fed. He was, but that's basically the extent of it. I mean, he was getting taken to the doctors. He was getting fed. He was, help with getting. But it was just becoming too much for the roommate. And so when I went to see him, he had, like I said, there was this infection in his toe. He wasn't taking antibiotics. He's diabetic. He ultimately, 2 weeks after that, he lost his toe, and when he was in that hospital, that's when he came home with me, and he's been with me since, and it'll be about 4 months. It'll be about 4 months pretty soon that he's been with the family here, and
tell me about your family. How old are the kids? And
I have a 17-year-old boy, 15-year-old boy. I have a 8-year-old, she'll be 9-year-old girl, and a 7-year-old boy. So I have 4 kids, and they.
So how did they respond to the change in lifestyle, etc.?
They initially they know that I'm a type of person that would help somebody in need, and this being my dad, and they've met him and had a relationship with him in like the past, but my little ones didn't really remember him too much, because I hadn't seen him in 3 years, but they knew he was my dad. They initially were kind of they were all gung ho, like yeah, let's do it, and I explained it to him, but just like I was very gung ho at the beginning, like, let's just you're gonna come live with me, and I'm gonna take care of you, and you're gonna just be a part of my family, and it's gonna be great. And when you get him home and you realize that, hey, like, we can't really go to the beach, or we can't really go to the mall, or things were just harder, or it kind of and then my kids were in this. I put all 4 of my kids into one bedroom, which wasn't ideal for anybody, but so my dad could have his own space, and we did that for about like I said, we just moved last week, so we ended up doing that for about 3 months, and that wasn't fun for them. But now that they got the new place, we're getting adjusted. But they all take time, to kind of connect with him, and talk to him for a second. Even though a lot of times he doesn't know which one of my older boys is which, even though they look nothing alike. But
I don't even know which one of my older girls are their names. It's just that comes with parenting.
Well, he's got an excuse though. No, but I think the whole
Thanks a lot.
reality of the whole reality of it is that it's um it's a lot more than I had anticipated. And I remember talking to you before I even brought him in, and you had told me like, I don't think that you know what this all entails, but I know that anything is possible, and I know that I can do this. I know I can. I mean, I do it every day, and I'm getting better at it every day. But there's so much. I'm like the first, I would say, 3 weeks. I don't think I slept at all. I mean, because I would just watch him. I would just study him and watch what he would do because he was up all night, and I was trying to figure out how do I get him not to pee in a corner of the room, or how do I get him to not know. And you know, I figured out ways to we don't have these type of accidents anymore. We don't have things like this, but just by like studying him and just watching him and just things that help him, you know, cope with day to day life. And, you know, I was just talking to somebody yesterday. We just moved and we lived upstairs, and it was just so hard on my body just moving. And I was so sore. And then I look at my dad as he has no clue in this new house how hard it is for him just to adjust, just to a new environment. You know, we
Yeah.
pulled up today. You know, we pulled up today from the doctors, and he's like, "Who lives here? Like, where are we?" And I'm like, this is our new place." And he was like, "Oh, like he just, you know," and he's been here every day. But it's nice. We have a yard. We can walk outside. There's no more steps, which praise God,
Oh, how
and
much
it's
bigger?
great. It's a lot bigger. We have basically like 5 rooms, 4.5 rooms, like a loft, and he has his room. My older boy, I mean, it's still the kids still share rooms because they're kind of in groups, you know. Like my two older boys have always shared a room, and my two little ones have always shared a room. And they're 2 years in age, so they're both really
Yeah.
close. But all my kids are really close.
Well,
Um,
listen, I want to talk more about, the move and how you did it, the financial assistance, etc. But we need to take a short break, and so don't go away. We'll be right back. One Arm, One Leg, 100 Words Overcoming Unbelievable Hardships is about Charlene, a stroke survivor. Back in 1996, Charlene was a healthy, normal, very active 52-year-old woman whose amazing talents resembled that of both a Martha Stewart and a Wonder Woman. But all that changed when she suffered a massive stroke that left her severely speech impaired and paralyzed on the right side. Who am I? My name is David. I've had the privilege of being Charlene's husband since 1975. We had a wonderful fairy tale storybook-like courtship that culminated in our marriage a year later. Charlene had just come out of a marriage where after 10 years, she received 2 black eyes and a broken nose by her former husband when he came home high on speed. Charlene believed in no second chances of any kind for abuse, so she left. Finding herself all alone in the world with her 5 and 10-year-old daughters Cynthia Lorraine and Deborah Lynn, she started raising them by herself for the next 2 years. Then fate brought us all together. After falling in love with Charlene, Cindy, and Debbie, our love then produced Rebecca Elizabeth. We had a wonderful, normal life for the next 20 years. But today, things are very different for everyone. One Arm, One Leg, 100 Words Overcoming Unbelievable Hardships is the amazing story of a woman's fight to survive all that life had thrown her way. Everyone who knows Charlene is thoroughly amazed at how she lives day by day, month by month, year by year, and with a smile on her face and hope in her heart that everything is going to be okay. Her faith in God is her foundation in this hope, that everything happens for a reason, and what doesn't kill her will make her stronger. She inspires everyone who meets her. Her accomplishments since her stroke are very impressive, often making us normal people look like whiners and complainers. So pick up your copy of One Arm, One Leg, 100 Words Overcoming Unbelievable Hardships today. You won't be disappointed. Just hear what best-selling author Lynn Barrington has to say about it. If you think you have it bad, read this book. This is a beautiful, genuine story told from the heart. It's inspiring and easy to read. When you finish this book, you'll be able to look at your concerns in a new light.
How about the reaction of 9-time Grammy and Dove Award recipient, the godfather of contemporary gospel Christian music, Andre Crouch? Charlene just won't let the promises of God go, and she has not let her circumstances get in the way of her faith. She's not just a survivor, she's more than a conqueror, as the Bible states. You'll be encouraged by her testimony, regardless of what you're going through. Available everywhere, but if you purchase your copy directly from the author's website, onearm1leg100words.com, Charlene and David will personally autograph your copy. Enjoy!
And we're back with Steve Munoz and me, Dave Nasani. We're missing Adrienne. She's got a migraine. So, Steve, I want to ask you a few things. You still there? Are you unmuted?
Yes, sir.
Oh, good.
Yes, I'm here.
Just watching that commercial of my wife, I'm always reminded how amazing she is, and people always come to me, "Oh, you're amazing, you're amazing," and I don't feel so amazing. I'm just doing what, you know, I have to do. It's the new normal, and I don't feel like I deserve any pats on the back. Do people come up to you and tell you like how wonderful you are and how they couldn't do what you're doing, all that stuff?
Yeah, it kind of, yeah, I've had all kinds of different emotions, different responses, from family. I've been outcasted. I've been, people kind of keep their distance, and then you get those people that are just like really love, that the act of love, because that's ultimately what it is. I could have been like everybody else, that just kind of just like, oh, like everybody found out I shared his condition, and nobody really would have done this, and his options weren't to be in a home. He doesn't have the means. He didn't have the insurance provisions and things like that. But yeah, people always tell me, "Oh, you're an angel, or you're so selfless, or you're so not," and
You definitely have the caregiver heart.
And I don't know. I guess I just can't think of it like that. I just, I feel like this is what God wants from me right now, and being in this position has really put perspective back into my life.
What do you mean?
We can complain about, our finances or our job or whatever it may be. And I look at my dad and I see him struggle just to know how to get to his room, and it's a real struggle that he fights with this condition every day. He fights remembering who he is, or he has thoughts in his mind that it haunt him, and I could see it haunts him, and it he's just dealing with it, but my job is to give him joy and peace, to make him feel loved every day, to make him feel like he's alive, and that he's special. And I think that everybody needs that.
With dementia and Alzheimer's, you have to look for those moments, because that's all you have it's just a moment. You might share a joke or a memory, and for about 60 seconds, it's you and him, the real him, and then it's gone, and the moment's gone. And just appreciate and be thankful for those little moments, because you never know when they're going to come, how long they're going to last, if they're going to come.
It really blows me away, because when I first brought him home, he really didn't remember anything. And I'm not saying he's like, quoting scripture or anything like that, but he's, he remembers, the 4th of July. He remembers going to watch fireworks. Because he hadn't seen fireworks in like 10 years. He remembers my kids. He remembers the first movies that they watched together. He remembers things that, and a lot has to do with my kids. The memories, we did finally go to the beach, and he was like, he spent the day there and was just, he remembers that. Or he remembers funny things, or he remembers things that have to do with just being a part of life, like just, being a part, or a birthday, or having lunch with my brothers, or when my brothers came to see me, or whatever it may be. He remembers those things. And I refresh his memory on a lot of them too. And he doesn't remember the details of them, or he might have his own details, but to see those things in him when he didn't have those memories, like they're new memories for him. And
Yeah.
and even when we listen to music, a lot of the music that we listen to are music from his childhood, that his
Yeah.
dad listened to, like, Frank Sinatra's, and,
Uh-huh.
things where I'm actually benefiting from it because I'm getting some culture, some old jazz and things. I didn't listen. I mean,
I
I
love
didn't
that
grow up.
stuff.
I grew up in the '90s, so it
Right,
was like
right.
I wasn't listening to Frank Sinatra. When I thought of old music, it was like Motown, R&B or something. That's about as far back as
Yeah.
I went, 60s and 70s. But when you start going back, I mean, and it's great music, it's great. He's got great stuff. He's got great taste, and we can sit there and just listen to just music for hours
Yeah.
and talk about music and songs, and it'll
Oh,
key a memory in the song. So I've been creating this
yeah.
playlist of 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 just songs that he likes. So when we go somewhere, I could go on a ride, I just play his music and he engages. It
Yeah.
really, I can see him, start tapping his foot, or put a smile, or and it's just
Well, you're doing all the right stuff. You're stimulating his memory. Music is the best way to do that. I mean, I'm amazed. A song will come on the radio that I hadn't heard in 40 or 50 years, and all of a sudden I know every single word, and I'm there. I know what was going on around me, and I can't remember what I had for
uh,
breakfast. So, this brain
exactly.
is just an
That's
amazing thing.
amazing. It is amazing, and I thought I've been very blessed along the way, from when he was in the hospital from the very beginning. His nurse, her mom was had a dementia, and hospitals, by the way, are no place for a person with dementia. He thought he was
Mm,
like in an asylum, and he was admitted, and he was like, because people were just like poking him and putting him, he needs rest,
yeah,
he gets tired. It just was not.
sure.
And that really scared me because that was my first look at it. I was on my own. I wasn't ready. I wasn't planning on him coming with me, but there it was. It happened. But I've had a lot of people, including yourself, friends, that were longtime caregivers. I know people that have worked in. I've met people that have worked in assisted living facilities, and I mean, it's like you start learning tricks from them, and then like things that I've done on my own with my own studying and my own observations. I mean, I'm just, because like I said, I want to make his days. I don't know how many he's got. It seems to be pretty progressive.
Yeah, quality of
In
life.
his,
That's what it's all about,
yeah, and and
not
to have him,
quantity.
yeah, just it's just and but like I said, it puts that perspective back. I was just thinking about when I heard that commercial about Charlene, and then you asked me that question. If people ask me that, I know Charlene and spent time with her, and she amazes me. And I had spent time with her before I had my dad, over Christmas and whatnot, and I was trying to do the light thing for her, and it was
Yeah,
just
you
like,
put up our Christmas lights and took them down.
and it was so worth it too, because she loved it, she loved it, and but
And
you
you
know
wouldn't
how
even
she,
take any money.
no, I didn't. It's her thanks, but
Yeah, it
she's
really meant
just
a
an
lot to her. It really did.
yeah, and that's you couldn't pay me that enough for that, to see that smile, or for her gratefulness, and but how meticulous she is, and her
Yeah.
not being able to speak, and I was like really like trying to be patient, and I was like, man, but the whole time I was just amazed by like her just determination, how she was. It just amazes me how her mind works, how strong, and it
Yeah.
actually, it almost prepared me in a way, like, even though the circumstance is different, just like I feel like parenting, and having 4 kids, and having to change diapers. Well, guess what? My
Yeah.
dad
Everything
wears
prepares
a
you.
diaper, even though now we never have. I figured out ways to make sure we don't have any accidents, which which when he was living up on the hill on the mountain, he was peeing in the corner of his room or trying to pee out a window, or he didn't know because he couldn't find the restroom and he just had to go
Right.
so bad. And but I haven't had an accident in 2-3 months. Praise God for that. But it's just learning and studying, how I can help this guy, and the things that he really loves. Like, he loves to get clean shaven. He loves it. So it's like when I shave him and trim it, I mean, he feels like a new man. He feels sharp again. He feels alive. And and when I see those glimpses and I see those things, I mean, they're priceless for me. They're priceless, and but it's go ahead.
It reminds me. I'm sorry to interrupt. It reminds me of God just gives us custom made trials. Uh, Charlene and your father have a lot in common. In fact, we all have a lot in common. Everyone is going through something. Charlene can't talk; she's paralyzed on the right side. Your father can't comprehend things; he can't remember things. It's almost like God gives us tailor-made trials to get through, and many times the trials are for us. It's like my trial, it's your trial, and
Yeah.
we'll never know why good people suffer or bad things happen to good people until we get to heaven. But uh, life is pretty amazing, and I guarantee you one thing, that we're all striving for perfection in this job. I mean, I'm amazed at just the things you're telling me, and how it's changed you, and how your heart is. I mean, you're much you're much nicer than me.
The
and
other day, he kind of, he gets, when he gets tired, he can get pretty snappy, not aggressive. One there was one time when he did, and I kind of just stood firm, and whatnot, but I didn't. But he got gets kind of snappy when he's tired, and it's only with me. It's
hmm
not with anybody else. Not ever with the kids. Not with
yeah,
my wife or nothing like that.
familiarity breeds contempt, they say.
Yeah, and I mean, we're with each other all day, every day, pretty much. Well, now I've
Honeymoon's
really,
over.
I've really tried to now. Once he goes to bed, or in the morning is when I'll go to the gym, or I'll go to work for a couple hours here or there, and I'll try to get my me time back. But
Yeah.
I had to do that. I wasn't doing that. Um,
Is that
but
helping?
now we start. It does. It helps tremendously. I mean, it really relieves that stress. And a
Lets
lot
you
of
feel
times,
normal again?
it really does. It really does, especially the gym. The gym for me, to go and sit in the jacuzzi even. Sometimes I'll just go sit in the sauna and jacuzzi and not even work out, just kind of clear my mind and just kind of be, at peace but I just try to take it day by day too, not try to
Yeah.
overwhelm myself, and because that's what you want to do. You want to just, how can I fix it? And and people that have no idea, like, say with my wife, she'll be like, well, we can go here, let's go to City Walk, and I'm like thinking, like, we can't, like, that's that's I mean, it's hard. Or like my brother would say, hey, let's go to dinner, and I'm thinking, how about lunch? And let's, or something, because certain things just aren't the same. He
hmm
can, he can go to dinner. Yeah, you're right, but he's got to make. I have to make sure he has a nap, or he might be fine at dinner, but once we get home, my thing was with the stairs, living with stairs. Him going up those stairs, I'd put a gate belt on him, and at times I would think I'm gonna have to carry him because he would just stop. He couldn't do it. And there's things, people, they think, that there's an answer, but even like in other cases of people with dementia, they're all different. And
This is like
it,
deja vu. I mean, you're describing when my kids were two, all of that. It's like they go back to that.
yeah, it is. It is. But I had to, like I was saying, that he kind of lashed out at me the other day, and I just kind of looked at him, and I just said, I'm sorry, Dad, but I go, I'm just trying to help you if you need help, and I just kind of let him, wander his way because he didn't want to be bothered, and And then, after he realized that he could do it, he looks at me and he's like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm like, okay, come on. And but it hurts me to see him struggle like that, because I just want to
Sure.
help him. I just want to do it for him, but he still wants to do certain things, and I let him. I let him do what he can,
Yeah.
and then I'll be like, do this, but I'll show him, you know, um,
Sorry.
I'll show, like going to his room, you would think, oh, how do you not get that? It's just one hallway or whatever, but
Hmm.
it's but now, especially in a new place, I walk him every time. I walk him every time instead of, all right, yeah, all right, go to the room, or I have to take the actual time to do it, and but at the same time, I have to remind myself, of what he goes through. I've watched documentaries and I've read books, and you start to soak yourself up with all this knowledge of a thing that I had no idea of. And everybody has, there's all these experts and opinions and things that you
Hmm.
should do and tricks, but there's things that actually work for him, that don't, or work for people that don't work for him, and vice
Yeah.
versa. Like when, like say tonight we have a men's group we go to, I cannot mention the men's group until it's time to go. Like
Mm.
if I mentioned it the day before, if I mention it that morning, he will not rest until it's time to go. And then right before it's time to go, he's too tired to go and he falls asleep. So I can't mention it, and I've learned things. So
Just like kids.
now, yeah, and so now we'll be sitting there and we're listening to music or watching TV, and I'll fake sleeping. I'll pretend to go to sleep, and so it makes him tired, and
The
he'll
old
want to
yawn,
take a
huh?
nap. So I kind of pull one over on him, and I mean, but it
Yeah.
works. He goes and he lays down, and then I wake him up when it's time to go. Because the event is at 7 o'clock at night, so he needs that nap. He definitely
Yep.
needs it, and it's better for him.
You're pretty
But
smart, Steve. You're a smart cookie.
I don't
Listen,
know
we're going
about
to take
that,
another
but
break. I got more to ask you, but we got to take this break first, so don't go
no
away.
problem.
Anytime we suffer loss, we grieve. And a lot of people don't realize what even the grief process is. But it could be 5 to 7 steps ranging from denial, I don't believe this is happening, anger, oh my gosh, I'm so upset this is happening, to a form of bargaining, how can I get out of this, to depression, which is a very serious thing because that often leads to suicide. And then finally, after you realize you have no more control over your situation and you're totally okay with the new normal that it brings, that wonderful, wonderful place called acceptance.
Being a caregiver takes a special person with passion and compassion. But even you can become a little burned out from time to time. The Caregiver's Caregiver radio show was developed to help you overcome obstacles, adversity, and burnout, as well as just having a place to rest, relax, and recharge your batteries. We've all been there, and you're not alone. Now, you can take the Caregiver's Caregiver with you. Get the top 25 radio shows in convenient form that plugs right into your USB car stereo or computer. Learn the techniques, tips, and encouragement we all need to better handle the day-to-day challenges. For around $1 per show, just $29.77, get the credit card-sized USB card to have with you anytime you need a caregiver's pick-me-up. Just go to DaveTheCaregiversCaregiver.com and order yours today. Go to DaveTheCaregiversCaregiver.com now. Consider it an investment in you, and ultimately, an investment in them.
And we're back with Steve Munoz and your host, me, Dave Nasani. And you still there, Steve?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, I love when they're still there. Um, you talked about dementia patients being in hospitals. I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but I met, I spoke at Harvard recently, and I met a guy who is actually building uh, a, a dementia and Alzheimer's community. In Holland, they actually have one where they don't have to lock people up. The whole city or the whole town was built with dementia people in mind, and that's who live there, people with dementia. And they can come and go as they please because it's all been safe. The streets are safe. The buildings are safe. They can't get any trouble. They're constantly patrolled. There's video. There's caregivers and medical personnel, etc. And it's just an amazing, almost like fantasy land of Disneyland, Alzheimer's land. And so
Wow.
this guy is building it in this country. Apparently he's very rich and he's doing it. And so God, wouldn't we love to put our loved one with Alzheimer's or dementia in a community like that? I'm dealing with this now. Charlene's mother has she doesn't know she does, but she has a form of dementia. She thinks I'm trying to murder her and steal her house, and I'm in cahoots with the caregiver. And she had to finally be removed from her house. Well, we convinced her, or the police came, and convinced her that it wasn't safe for her to stay in her house anymore since, I'm trying to murder her. So let's take you to the hospital and see if we drugged you and we'll get you all straightened up. You just say and do whatever you have to say and do to get them in a safe environment because she just can't live alone by herself. And even though I went up there to put video cameras, I'm like 2.5 hours away, and her son is like in Minnesota, and she just has a caregiver that comes. She had a live-in caregiver, but she kept calling the cops on her, accusing her of stealing all her stuff. They get paranoid, they get delusional. So enjoy. There's different stages of dementia. So just enjoy whatever stage you're in. And so
Right.
that's what I wanted to say about the dementia community.
That sounds amazing. I'm sure
So
even if you couldn't get in there, just some of the ideas they have would be
yeah,
beneficial.
yeah.
And
Like if you were a single person, you had no family or whatever, you can probably make the home, uh, safe, so that they have a little more freedom or whatever. But anyway, we're just thinking out of the box now. Why don't you take the last 10 minutes or so, because time is flying, and share, some of the great things you said that you learned. You're becoming a real expert at this by listening to people and watching documentaries, etc. Why don't you just sit down in your wise old chair and tell some of these people who are dealing with this, because the name of the show is Brand New Caregivers Jumping In with Both Feet Clueless. I mean, were you clueless? Sounds like it.
definitely, definitely. I had no idea of what it was. I didn't think, I thought Alzheimer's, and I thought, oh, you forget your name and birthdays and
Yeah.
things like that. Um, but he's in the stages where he can remember his birthday if I mean now, but not always. But there's
Yeah.
times when he doesn't. Um, but I was definitely had no idea that how it affects your motor skills, and then watching some documentaries on it and whatnot, and you start to see, what the end game is for different people. It's completely different, and it's really scary. It terrifies me, but I'm not there yet. Like you just said, I'm enjoy where I'm at right now. And it doesn't always get there, but when you see in some cases where it actually gets to a point where they can't feed themselves or they
Yeah.
can't walk anymore because they've forgotten how.
Yeah.
And it,
Or they don't know the
they,
difference between night and day, AM,
yeah,
PM. They don't know if they're
he
supposed to
doesn't.
sleep. My mother couldn't figure out, it's the sun is out. Am I supposed to sleep now or am I supposed to be up? Or I get these
Yeah,
calls in the middle of the night, it's dark outside. Should I be up or should I be sleeping?
yeah, he has no. Right now, he has no concept of time, day or night. Like on what was it, Sunday here. I had some people over for my son, like just my mom came over. It was my son's birthday, and she had asked him if, hey, did you go to church today? And he said, and this is at 2 in the afternoon, and we went to church at 11 or 10, and he had told her, yeah, we went yesterday. Like he thought a whole day had passed, because he took like a 20-minute nap. And, and I had to remember, like, no, Dad, that was just morning. And he kind of was like, it really threw him off, like he didn't realize that. But, he does good in public settings. Like, for the most part, I've had him in men's group, and people were like, oh, he doesn't seem that bad. I'm like, oh, he's not. When you're engaging with him, he's okay. It's just, but I had no clue of like I said, the certain things, like I was like, oh, we're going to go, we have season passes to like Magic Mountain and Hurricane Harbor here. I'm like, oh yeah, you'll go and we'll get you a pass. That's pretty much an impossible thing to do. It's because, he can't, I can't, I have him and my kids, so it's kind of like I used to take my kids because my wife was working, and I'd be able to just watch them. But now that and going on rides with them or do things, I can't do that anymore because he can't go on a ride, or he can't really do any of those. So it changes things. I didn't expect any of that. And it really kind of changed it for me. And I realized, like, wow, this is really serious. And like I said, you really start looking at what it's doing to his brain on a daily basis, and how you have to kind of reprogram it. Like, yeah, you can teach him how to do things still. He can still learn things and remember things, but it's just like teaching a kid, math or how to write. Like, you have to put it
tie
in
your
brain,
shoes.
like, every single day. You have to do that, and it's like it's very for me, it was kind of the hardest thing, I think, is to see him go through it, to see him deteriorate, and to see that. And it's hard, but I'm not, he's not gone, and as long as he's here, I'm gonna love him. I'm gonna love him unconditionally, and and my family is the same way. My wife, it like I said, it puts perspective back into our lives, and I've been able to show my kids do this. Like, look, I can have.
When I'm this old and my brain is like this, you're going to take care of me, right?
Well, I hope that. I don't
You're
know.
modeling.
Like,
you're modeling.
I just, if it's a necessity, I'm like, that's what you do. That's but unfortunately, not everybody thinks like I think. Like, not everybody feels like that. Obviously, there's been family that has just really, like, you shouldn't be doing this, and this is dumb, and it's you're going to affect your family, and you're going to tear. I've heard all kinds of different things.
In every family, Steve, there's one person who always rises to the occasion. For whatever reason, they have the caregiver heart, and the rest of the siblings are either, well, I'm glad it's you, or hey, if you need any help, let me know, or whatever. But there's always one that it's just a natural fit.
My mom, it's been really hard too, because this is my biological father, and my mom has been remarried and been with the same guy for like 38 years, and I'm 40. So he raised me as long as I can remember. He's been my dad. Like, he's my stepdad, but he's been my dad. So I remember, like, in the first couple of weeks, the first week or two, thinking, what did I get myself into? Like, and literally
buyer's remorse, they call it.
On my knees crying, because I would have so much rather it been my stepdad than my dad. I hate to say that, but that's how I felt, and I really didn't know what I was doing. But and but a big part of me. I mean, I love my dad. I do, as he became an adult, but it would have been easier if it were, my
Yeah.
mom or, so, it would have been different, but, especially because he wasn't the greatest dad when I was
Yeah.
young. We didn't even have a relationship probably till I was an adult and 18. I'm not
Yeah.
going to actually go and see him. But nothing,
Listen, I've got to interrupt you because we're just running out of time. We have literally 3 minutes
problem.
left. I want you to talk about the program that you're on in California. What do you call it? What?
IHSS, it's in-home support.
IHSS. And they're
Yeah,
actually paying you up to how many hours a week?
it could be
You
up
said,
to 64 hours a week
yeah,
for
I've been telling a
24
lot of
hours.
people online about this, and many of them are saying, "Oh, that's impossible." Oh, but I
Yeah,
pull up the website and I send it to them. I says, "No, this is happening. A lot of people. This is like the
yeah.
best
You
kept
have to
secret."
have. He has to have.
Medi-Cal, right?
He has
Medicaid.
to have Medicare, Medi-Cal, but he has to have be on Medi-Cal, and this can be approved for moms, and that's who told me about it. It's a couple that has a special needs son that they could get paid. They basically get paid to watch their own child.
Yeah, that's a blessing, and I
Yeah,
mean that's one of the
yeah.
things that caused you to move into a larger place, right?
Right. Yeah, because if not, I had to leave my job. I had to make, things like that. So but it's a process. They come, they inspect your place, and they make sure he's fit. Obviously he can't, he can't really do anything on his own. So I
And
would,
California and Massachusetts, I did some research, are the two highest paid states in the whole union. And
really.
coincidentally, someone from Massachusetts was asking me about it.
Yeah,
And I
and
said,
you
yes,
don't
yes.
have to, you don't have to. Some people that I know, like the family that I know that gets paid for the child, they only get 40 hours a week. But
Hmm.
which is, even though there's this 24-hour care, but they don't consider because he sleeps through the night. That's
Right,
my dad does not sleep through the night. He's up. He
right.
can be up any time of the day. He has no idea,
But if
and I
one day you decide, you want to go on a family outing and you want someone to watch him, like you can
yeah.
call Visiting Angels and use the
Yeah,
money
you
to
can.
pay
Well,
for
you can
for
take
respite.
that six. Yeah, you can take that 64 hours, or like for me, I don't do the whole 64 hours, which I can outsource like 8 hours a week, so
Hmm.
I can schedule a caregiver to come and take him for a walk, or or bathe him if you needed that, or whatever you need
Yeah,
really. They come and they'll do it. But one of the things that I want to do was for family functions,
yeah,
that were long drives, or because he's not really into going to like a kid's birthday party. You know what I mean?
yeah,
That just
sure.
the commotion, and it's just not. He likes to go and eat. He still loves food, so that would be the extent of it. But after that, he's ready to go. Like he doesn't want to be there anymore, and
All right.
so those types of things. And I
Well,
really haven't really tried a whole lot, because it's still pretty new to me of the type of caregiver that
you're learning, and I think you're going to
yeah.
keep learning, and we'll have you back another time, find out how much more you learn. But
Oh, that'd
just
be
what we've
great.
shared is going to change some people's lives. So thank you so much for that. And just if somebody wants
All
to
right.
ask you some questions, email or phone number, I mean, how do you want them to communicate with you?
You could email me smunoz43 at Hotmail.
Spell it.
Yeah, definitely.
Steve, they know how to spell that. Munoz, how do you spell that?
Munoz.
At hotmail.com, is that what you said?
Yeah, Munoz
Oh, S.
43
Munoz.
at Hotmail. Yeah, but it's been an honor to be here to talk
Well, yeah,
about it.
thank you for coming in. We had a guest and they canceled at the last minute, and I just I wasn't going to do a show today, and then I saw you and I says, you know what, you great show, and you reluctantly agreed. But
Well,
thank you.
I owe a lot. Your book has helped me. It really has put things in line for me. It's helped me a lot. So I recommend that book to caregivers, and
Which one?
knowing you, the new one,
Oh, I
the
gave you a
PDF that
secret
you sent.
copy. You're probably the only one in the world who who's allowed to read that.
Yeah.
Glad you're enjoying it. So,
Yeah,
so
it's
all right,
great,
we're going to
you
go
know,
over
and
time. Give a quick review of the book. Why should people buy it, and what's the
I
benefit?
definitely, you know, because it's for you. If you're a caregiver, it's designed for you to help you
You, the
get through
caregiver.
each day. Yeah,
Yeah.
for the caregiver.
Yeah.
You know, I never even thought of myself as one, but then I started reading. I'm like, man, this is exactly what I needed. So, it really,
Yeah.
it helps. It helps
Yeah.
you on a daily
Some people
get
got
through life.
upset because the picture on the cover is me in Hawaii having a great old time, sailing a boat. Some people just gave me attitudes. Well, that's really nice how you can go, but I'm here 24/7 and da 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 da. But
Yeah,
like there are so many things that they can do. They just have, uh, and I want to be sensitive because not everybody, is in this camp. But if you have a negative, and you're burned out, it's hard to see opportunities to make things better. And if you
yeah,
didn't find out about this financial thing, you might be fried to a crisp by now, burnt out.
yeah.
So so
It's
buy the
but
book.
you're
Lots of great
absolutely
ideas in
right.
there.
You know how you have to make time for yourself. You absolutely
Yep,
do. You really do. Even if it's
absolutely.
like for me, just to take a 10-minute walk and breathe. You know, and my wife's great at allowing me that. I've expressed it to her, and
Okay.
you know, we work around it. So, but I appreciate you having me on, Dave. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Um,
Sorry we went over, everybody, but I think it was worth the time. And thank you so much, Steve, and we appreciate it. And we'll see you next Wednesday at noon. God bless you. Bye bye.
all right, thank you.
Thank you for joining Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver Radio Show. Make sure you tune in every Wednesday at noon Pacific Time and anytime afterwards on podcast to catch more of Dave and his tips to caregivers on avoiding burnout and surviving the grief process right here on the Worldwide Block Talk Radio Network. Goodbye.